perfect. Instead of a sync clap, it's all. Alright, what up guys? So today we're going to be talking about something I've been wanting to do for a little bit, and that's dive back into the trick series that I used to do on my channel, but bring everything over to do on these ETHiX Tuesdays and just kind of go into things with a little bit more detail. So we're going to start all the way from the very beginning, letting you guys know exactly what to do, just super basic. I don't want to get too convoluted with a bunch of things and you guys don't really know what we're talking about, especially if you are new to this hobby. This is going to be from the very first part of learning to do the tricks, and we're just going to develop into whatever it may turn into. Trippy spins, looking like this guy when you're done flying, things like that. So the first thing that we want to go over today is just going to be super basic. It's just going to be doing your basic flips and rolls. And of course you're going to think, okay, that's really easy to do. I mean, I could go out, I could do line of sight flips and rolls and everything. It's not just a matter of doing flips and rolls, it's that you have to catch the flips and rolls precisely. That's how you develop better into doing more and more different tricks and everything, is you always want to catch all your flips and rolls level. So if you think about it like skateboarding, when you're doing a kick flip or something on that nature, you always want to make sure that you're catching the board completely level and it's completely flat. So when you're going up to do the trick and it comes over, you can land both feet on it. The very same thing goes with doing that with your mini quad, is you want to be able to go up, do the flip, and catch it flat. A lot of this has to do with adjusting your rolls and your rates. So play around with your rolls and rates, make sure everything, your expo and your rates, not rolls and rates, but to do that, you just got to play around with it. Find what works good for you with your muscle memory, and everybody's different. So when I first started out, I thought I had to jack my rates up and everything because I wanted the quad to spin faster. That wasn't really the case. I kind of had to find out where my stick feel was and everything, adjust the expo, and from there move on to adjusting the rates and everything to find out where I could catch the quad always level. A lot of the times I would overshoot and the quad would just, I'd be over to the side or something. I wasn't really in control. Or a lot of times I'd go to flip it and I'd have to stay on the stick a little bit more because I didn't have the right rates that were in the GUI and everything with my quad. I always had to play with them. So now having the OSD and everything that you could play around in there, take your time, get a feel for it, so that way you guys could find out where the correct feel is for you guys. So today we're going to have Steele basically showing you guys how to catch the quad correctly, what he does, where his hands are and everything while he's flying. And it's just going to be very basic, couple flips, couple rolls, and he's going to show you just the technique that he uses to catch the quad, and that's something that you guys could do yourself as well when you guys go out to the flying field.
Alright, so before my video transmitter melts, we're going to do some flips and some rolls line of sight just to show you guys how low you can be, because I think this is kind of a common misconception where flipping and rolling and stuff like that, if you do it really low, you can't maintain a low altitude. And how you would do that is you blip the throttle to push the quad up a little bit, and then do a roll as it's slowly descending, as in you're in zero throttle as it's rolling and descending, and then you catch it right before it hits the ground. So if you watch right here, I'm going to do some line of sight, and I always recommend line of sight as like something that you should practice a lot because it really helps you with timing and stuff in your FPV. But line of sight is very difficult with a quadcopter because the orientation is very difficult to maintain. Alright, so typically like if we're flying line of sight and we do like a tail in like right roll, which is the easiest to do, and you stay on throttle, I'd probably want to be this high. See how it drops so much throttle? So I just stayed a consistent throttle and then just caught it before it hit the ground. So you see how much altitude we're losing. And if we do a flip, so I'd be scared to do a roll any lower. So okay, so now we're gonna do it where I blip the throttle to where I do a roll, and we don't actually lose a lot of altitude. So our main goal is to have a normal altitude, like pick an altitude. And we're fighting wind right now, so it's a little bit harder. So we're picking an altitude, and then we're trying to do a roll and be exactly at that altitude when we stop. See how I'm pretty much at the same altitude every time? And you can do practice where you throttle up and do a slow roll. So there's all kinds of rolls, but the one that I would say practice the most is pick an altitude, blip the throttle, like add a little bit of throttle, go to 0 throttle, roll, and then increase throttle accordingly to maintain altitude. And if you can do that, then the timing, assuming your roll and pitch rates are the same, you can pretty much do it, all the timing is the same for every axis. And then when you get good, you can like quad mover and like do all kinds of gnarly stuff. So anyways, and then you can do stalled rolls. There's all kinds of rolls. But yeah, the basic roll is, again, to try to maintain altitude. And if you get that down line of sight, then I'll show you when you're doing it super low. So if you're cruising FPV, you're flying really low, you can do rolls super low. All right, let's do some FPV now. All right, you guys, we're about to take off and do some flips and rolls FPV. So I'm gonna take off, fly around. So typically for like a beginner, you know, I'd go up to about 20, 30 feet off the ground. And just to get your first roll, make sure your rates are set accordingly. If your rates are set super slow, like if less than 500 freaking flip, 500 degrees per second, you might need to go really high, because if you go full stick and it does this, you might need to bail out because it could be super, super slow. So, and you don't want to have your rates too fast, because then it'll like catch you off guard. You might come out all crooked and you might overcorrect and crash. So the idea is to set your rates to what you are comfortable with, go up high, kind of get an idea of how slow everything's going. Once you establish, okay, my rates are pretty quick, I think I can actually do a roll, you know, 10 to 15 feet off the ground. That's when you stay in the throttle and just roll the stick until it completely does a roll and your horizon is back level. And you see how, like, I'm cruising, I can stay in the throttle FPV and do some rolls. Like, I'll come by us right now and do some rolls, and I'm gonna stay in the throttle and watch the quad. It kind of does like a barrel roll. Check it out, Eric. Look at the quad. I'm gonna fly by and just stay in the throttle and do a roll. See how it dipped? If you do it with a lot of power, it does even more exaggerated of a barrel roll. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. All right. Now, if you want to try the blip method, where you blip the throttle and do a roll and then catch it, you go out, try blipping the throttle, doing a roll, and then catching it. Blip the throttle, do a roll, catch it. Blip, throttle, catch. And it's all a timing thing. So blip, roll, catch. And always practice both directions, because one direction's always easier for people, and then you get too comfortable with one direction and you never end up rolling to the other direction. So practice. Same thing with flips. Blip, flip, blip, flip, catch. Okay. And then I'm kind of running low on battery, but I think we can do this again. And I'll show you. So if you're low and you try to stay in the throttle and do a roll, you're just going to hit the ground, depending on how fast your rates are. Mine will not allow me to do a roll this low to the ground. But if I blip, I'm able to stay low. And stay really low and save it somehow. So you can stay real low, blip, catch, blip, catch. This battery is at 11 volts. I gotta come in. All right, so just to conclude what we just talked about, again, if you're doing a roll or a flip where you stay in the throttle, a roll is gonna be a lot more exaggerated. Or if you stay in the throttle, the quad's actually gonna do kind of like a barrel roll, where it kind of goes around because you are adding throttle and the quad wants to go down. Depending on how slow your rates are, you know, you could be turning at same throttle and it could push the quad into the ground, or depending if you're doing a front flip or something, flips are definitely a lot more crucial to go 0 throttle than rolls are, because it'll just straight up push you into the ground. But to do it like where you catch it or whatever, you just blip the throttle to where the quad is kind of going up. As it's going up, you're starting the roll, so it's not actually going to go as high as the blip that you input, because you're going to lose altitude when you go zero throttle. So you blip, the quad starts to go up. As you roll, it kind of maintains its center of mass is kind of headed forward, and then as you start to level back out, you increase throttle a little bit and catch it perfectly on the same plane, and that's going to give you like those super crispy rolls. Same thing with flips. If you do a flip and you, like, depends, front flip, you can actually like throttle up, but right as you go forward and throw the quad forward instead of like blipping up, so you can kind of stay low as you're throwing the quad forward. It has forward momentum. So there's like all kinds of techniques with rolls and flips and adding throttle and taking throttle out that I don't even think a lot of people even know that they're doing or know exist. So figured we would talk to you guys about those different types of rolls and stuff, just so you can not be practicing what might be considered like a technique that's going to screw you over later when you're trying to learn tricks in the future. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and check out ETHiXLTD.com. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming from us soon. We have all kinds of products in the works, trying to make FPV a little bit more refined for you guys so that you don't have to worry about so much internet jargon. Anyways, see you guys. Thank you for watching.